Good afternoon. First of all, thank you, Sami, and thank you, the team in SIGA, for making this event possible. On behalf of Ramzi, my co-editor, and myself, we are very thankful for this opportunity to share with you our own excitement and empowerment from the collection of more, as you said, 30 contributions of mostly Palestinian intellectuals, academics, and activists that when we started the journey, we didn't know that what we will accumulate would translate to such a powerful message about the present determination and resilience of the Palestinians wherever they are, and their continued struggle for liberation in the future. In fact, if we had the space, we would have been able to collect more than 30 people. The human capital that represents the Palestinians wherever they are in terms of their work in academia, in literature, in media, in poetry, in the theater, and the films, is so huge that one volume definitely would not have been sufficient to include everyone and present it to the world to see the determination and the production. There were a few reasons that we decided to do this project, and each one of us brought, I think, a little bit of his own experience. And when Dr. Baroud will speak about the book, you will hear maybe some additional angles to the project. Let me just, as an introductory to the whole event here in Istanbul, in the wonderful campus in Zaim University, mention three major points that for me were the most important one about this whole project on Palestine. As you probably know, if you are involved either as a Palestinian or you are involved in the solidarity movement with the Palestinians, you keep hearing about disunity. You keep hearing about fragmentation. You hear about the struggle between the Fatah and the Hamas, about the different Palestinian visions and political programs. And there is a sense as if the Zionist project of fragmenting the Palestinian people was a very successful one, and therefore you don't have one Palestinian voice, you don't have one Palestinian national leadership today, and so on. And of course, on a certain level, this is not a fabrication of the truth. On a certain level, there is a crisis of leadership among the Palestinians. I'm not revealing here something that people don't know. But on the other hand, if you go to this group of intellectuals, academics, artists, students, all over the world, wherever they are, in different generations, men and women, you see a unity of purpose that is exactly the opposite of this image of fragmentation. If you ask people who they are, what was their journey to the present, and what is their vision for the future, there is a strong unity. Whether they are Christians or Muslims, whether they are from the 48 Arabs, whether they live under occupation in the West Bank, or under siege in Gaza, or in a refugee camp, or in an exilic community. It's amazing to see from Australia to America, from Gaza to Cape Town, a similar clearance about who they are, what happened to them, and what should happen so that their life would be a fulfilling life and a liberated life. So one of the major motivation for this book was to create this unity for the reader by showing that it doesn't matter who we approach in terms of geography, in terms of age, in terms of gender. The message comes out very clearly as a united message, and it's probably one of the best explanation why after 100 years of colonialism, oppression, ethnic cleansing, with the world standing by and doing nothing in the case of Palestine. The Palestinian people are still here, are still fighting, and still believing that liberation and independence and self-determination is possible. The second reason, which was very important for us, was to show that at a time when you have a certain vacuum in leadership, when institutions do not seem to work very well under the abnormal conditions of the Palestinian existence, then at that kind of time you can refer to the individuals. You go to the personal stories. And the personal stories are the ones that empower you, even if the institutions are unable to do it, even if the institutions are unable to organize the liberation movement. You can see through every personal story that even if a person is a Palestinian living in a small village or town in a faraway place, or is at the center of Palestinian activism in Nablus or in Gaza, whoever they are, they carry out the Palestinian message and liberation struggle even without a clear institutional affiliation, even without clear institutional guidance that most liberation movements enjoyed throughout their years of struggle. And the third one, which for me was particularly important, was as a historian of the Palestinian Nakba, as an historian of the ethnic cleansing of Palestine, and someone who wrote quite a lot about 1948, I'm all the time aware of the magnitude of the trauma that happened in 1948. When a nation loses half of its villages, most of its towns, half of its people, and all of its homeland, this is a trauma that most people probably will never recover from. But there's something in the stories that people tell in this volume that comes out that people who deal with trauma will always recognize as the best way of dealing with it. You recognize the trauma, you don't deny it, you acknowledge it. In fact, unfortunately for the Palestinians, they still have to convince people that the crime against humanity in 1948 really occurred. It's hard to believe that you still need to do it in 2022 when all the evidence is there. But you acknowledge the trauma, but you don't allow the trauma to define you. This book is a proof that people did not allow the trauma to define them. If they lost a career in 1948, they rebuilt it. If they lost a home in 1948, they rebuilt it. If someone did not allow them to return, they built an infrastructure and movement that still aims at returning. And I think this ability to resurrect, to rebuild your life after such a trauma is it's an amazing story that can only be told through the personal narrative. And each narrative in this book tells the story of resilience, of sumud, as they say in Arabic, but also of resistance, and one that really makes me believe very strongly, and I'm talking about after the last Israeli elections, makes me believe that it may take a long time, and seems to be a struggle against all odds. But what this book shows, that the vision for a liberated Palestine from the river to the sea will never die, and one day will probably be implemented, if not in my lifetime, then in the lifetime of our students here. So thank you very much for inviting us. Thank you so much for arranging it, and I hope to share with you further our inputs in this very important book. Thank you very much.